Hey YouTube, I'm Rick Smith, and welcome to the name of the show that has not been named yet. Look, it's Moto.
Hi there.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to try and do a new series, and maybe it'll go past this one, maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll see. Is it live? Do you have alerts on for me?
Hold on.
Like 0 people are watching, but that goes for about, that's average for me. All right, hang on, Moto. We're just going to double check real quick. I'm talking to the producers right now. Honey? Okay. Somebody wrote in the chat I could do this all day.
That was me.
All right. I don't. Yeah. Okay, I think we're good. After a minute, they're not here. Yeah, it's fine. So anyway, like I was saying before, I really interrupted myself. There's Moto. We're going to do this. This may or may not be a one-off thing. I'm hoping it's not, but then I got to get brave and talk to the rest of them. But anyway.
That's okay. I'm Moto. I was on Lego Masters US or North America now, season 2.
Oh, were you? I just thought you were my friend.
That too.
All right.
But this is ostensibly I've been invited because Rick Smith has questions about the show in general and maybe some behind the scenes or things that I can answer. And I'll do my best to answer as many as possible as I'm allowed to answer.
Right. Because if you guys didn't know, I am going to be on season 4 because I'm going to try out to be on season 4. I'm going to win season 4. I'm going to be elected president of season 4. I am going to go on vacation to Universal with the family. I am then going to go to Canada with Will Arnett, and we're going to visit Jeff Van Winden, and we're going to eat poutine. And then I think I'm just going to take over the world after that because what else is left?
I'll tell you, Will Arnett just bought a multi-million-dollar ranch house in the Hollywood area, so you could hang out there.
I mean, we could stop there and pick up,
for accommodations,
our snow boots. Eh? They got a Tim Hortons over there. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So questions for you. First, foremost, because I know that this isn't anything you can't talk about. How did the show change you as a person? It's a trick question.
Well, no, I mean, it didn't. So, I mean, going in, it's a television show, it's a production. And the one thing I think the one thing I think is interesting is I used YouTube as a way to practice being in front of the camera, right? Being comfortable in front of having a camera on all the time being recorded. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, a multi-million-dollar production like Lego Masters is somewhat like YouTube. It's just that the scale is so mind-bendingly massive that you kind of have to push everything out of your way just to focus on doing what you're there to do. Right? It was overwhelming to the point where I just had to ignore it. And sort of record what was happening to me because for me, well, to answer this question, so it didn't change me. I mean, I'm still the same person I always was. I mean, does the show change you? No, not for me. I think what did happen is it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, right? It's one of those incredible journeys you can go on maybe once, for me, once in a lifetime and have that experience. And then you take that away. So, but while I was there, it was more of having sort of a out-of-body experience where you have watched the show. So you've watched the show, you watched the TV production, and then you walk in and you're physically there. So it's a bit of a mental disconnect to be living what you watch on television in real life and doing it at the same time while having at least for season 2, we had the benefit of seeing season 1. Mm-hmm. Right, to actually have seen the studio, to see the experience, and then all of a sudden you walk right into it. So I don't even think like Disney could get to that level of of reality because it's real. It's actually the production. You're walking in and there is Will Arnett and there is Jamie and Amy and there is the clock and all the tables and all this set is all there. And the figs on the staircase, it's all things that you've seen photographed or behind the scenes and little articles on. You're actually walking into that. It's pretty mind blowing.
So it's a surreal feeling to actually be involved actually in there.
Yeah, especially the first time. So for our production,
what
they didn't want.
Sorry,
what? Was there another question?
No, she laughed because the dog decided to take a trip up on the backside of the couch. New dog, everybody.
New dog.
Sorry.
So for me, it was the interesting that the production doesn't want anyone to see the set until they've been formally announced that they'd be in the production.
I got you.
So for season 2, they had extra teams in case any one team got COVID. They had backups.
Sure.
So no one ever knew if you were officially on the show doing, prep and the COVID week of COVID isolation, all the stuff you have to do until they finally tell you, oh, you're on the show. But fortunately, doing some of the pre-stuff, the pre-work, that's pre-production work, we were able to get close, approximate to glance in and see like a little sliver of the set and maybe get glances of it. But probably by season 3, because they learn each production, they probably actually locked the entire set down until they were ready to go. And then they went in to get that mind-blowing, like, whew. Either way, it didn't matter. Even with the glimpses, it still blew my mind.
Right, I imagine so.
Well, yeah, they got the full lighting effects on and everything's really humming and fog machines and stuff. It's a much different thing than just kind of seeing the bare set kind of as they're putting it together.
How hot is that room?
For us, it was extremely hot. Yeah, it was broiling. Well, it wasn't broiling in the beginning. So like a day of production, you get in there and so our location was Atlanta, Georgia. First season was LA.
Right.
And then third season was Atlanta, Georgia again. So the mornings are very cool, kind of chilly, not like cold, not like winter cold like Colorado, but it's chilly.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
So the set is cold, right? But once they turn on those lights, there are so many banks of lights that, it'll warm up, and within an hour or two, it's really toasty.
So did you sweat a lot?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you go back and
okay, go ahead.
No, if you go back and look at the first episode of season 2, you'll notice that I had a lab coat on, right? Our team had lab coats.
Yeah.
So we had heard from season 1 from Corey that the set was it was actually quite cool. Turns out our set was hot. So there's a couple of shots where Will Arnett's interacting with us and the lab coat is not on.
Okay.
And the reason was the t-shirt and it was 3 layers was way too much. We were overheating. And so we had to basically swap out, get rid of the t-shirt in order to wear the lab coat for the remainder of the production with just the shirt and the lab coat. But yeah, it was hot. Even by the end, I had sweat just pouring off of me. So I was constantly drinking water.
I'm a head sweater. Like I sweat. I'm not a head sweater. I sweat in the head. Outside the head. The what did they do? Like I'm sure they put makeup on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What did they do when the makeup dripped down your face?
That never happened to me.
In my beard. Oh.
Yeah, that never happened to me. I guess if you sweated that much, they would just they would get you touched up and you keep on rolling.
Okay.
Or maybe they want it. I mean, it's really dramatic. Like if it's like an airplane where there's just like where they shoot water down over you, like the comedic bit in Airplane, then I guess it's part of the drama. It's awesome to see.
I did see a guy episode 4 last episode. He was sweating and you could see it on his brow. So I don't know. Maybe that's real.
That's part of that's part of the whole reality TV or unscripted thing is maybe that shows the stress and the drama. So who knows?
Yeah. I don't know if you can answer this one. Did you
Oh,
say anything you didn't come up with yourself?
Did I say anything I didn't come up with myself?
Like, here's my
No,
brain.
no, they don't.
Hmm?
Well, no, I mean, that can be interpreted two ways. One is, did anybody hand me any scripted lines to say? No, they didn't.
Okay.
No, the only scripted components of the show are Will Arnett's one-liners when he's blowing something up or saying whatever it is. And then when they announce a challenge, that has to be scripted because the rules have to be very clearly recorded and articulated to the contestants like us. Mm-hmm. There's certain federal laws around cheating and around way game shows ostensibly work.
Okay.
So that's scripted, but the drop bys, the tables, all of that is, I mean, it's like when the Brickmasters stop by, it's obvious that they have a good understanding of what they want to address.
Sure.
Because they're looking and they understand every team and where they're at, and they want to give them great criticism or constructive, positive stuff. So you can tell they definitely have a mental catalog of what's going on, and they want to tell you. But it's not scripted. There's not like a prompter or anything for that. No.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good to hear because I've heard some people like Jason say that not anything to do with Lego Masters Brick Place. He's like every reality show is fake, and Jason, it's not fake.
No. Yeah. It is produced. So like if you say something like, "Oh crap, this is about to break,"
yeah,
and the camera's not on you, they may pull the cameras over and they'll say, "Can you do that again?"
Oh, for sure.
Just to get it on camera, but that's just for the sake of coverage. You know, as the competition goes on, I'm sure if there's only 3 teams and they have 10 cameras, you're not going to miss anything. But no, I mean, like if you like, I didn't do this, but like if you had a rehearsed introduction to your belt, they're like, Will's like, "Oh, hey, tell us about your belt." If you go in there and you blow your you like tumble over your words, or you slip up and you screw up, you could say, "Wait, stop. Can I do that again? Just let me start from the beginning again." But it's you yourself saying, "I've blown it," right? You get a chance to kind of think through. So I would say like that is actually one thing I did rehearse is I did try to rehearse the introduction to the belt to the judges when they say, tell us about your belt. I really wanted to make sure it was like 3 sentences. It was really snappy, fit in within reality show. You know, that the couple sound bites for their voiceover or whatever they need to do. I really tried to be attentive to that, but that was me. I think a lot of teams kind of got hip to the fact that they should do that. Like get your introduction to your model down because if you sit there or you open yourself up to not understanding the belt cleanly, then the judging gets pretty messy, I would say.
Well, sure.
But the other way you can interpret what you asked is there anything I regretted saying?
Well.
Right? No, I mean, I was very attentive that it was, it was an unscripted TV show. So if I like got really pissy or said something awful, it could be edited right in because I said it. So I was very cautious to never like blow my top or get mad or freak out, but that's just kind of the way I am.
Well, sure, and absolutely. I mean,
I think they maybe used the rudest thing I ever said. They did keep in the episode, which was like Parr showed me this mechanism for the robot, like the first episode. He's like, "What do you think of this?" I'm like, "You tell me," because he had been working on that like for like 6 hours, and I'm not paying attention. Like that's his job,
right?
Like, I'm just trying to like slam down the aesthetics, and at that point, I was like, "Dude, we agreed 6 hours ago. That was your deal." Like. But that's about as stickety as I got. Was kind of like, you tell me. I was really like stumped. Like, I don't know. I can't look at a mechanism you're working on for 6 hours and tell you whether it's good or not.
So here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
Once you made it onto the show, I should say, once I make it onto the show, what's going to carry me further, my personality or my building skills? Because it is a production. And a lot of people think I don't know why they think this, but for some people, I think people have this illusion that your personality can carry you through the judging. Sure.
And I don't believe that's true. simply because for a couple reasons. One is, was it like the $100,000 pyramid? What was the game show that was rigged? It came up that they had rigged it. Remember, like in the 60s or 50s or whatever, like a long time ago,
yeah,
right?
the quiz show was the movie named after it, and it came out in 1996. That was the movie.
So anyway,
the $64,000 question.
Yeah. So after that debacle, there was a federal law put in place regulating the way any show that has a financial award, it has to be run. Okay.
I got you.
So the federal law doesn't. So for us, it covers contestants. It says that if you try to throw the contest in any way, you know, it's a federal crime, and they list out like all the federal penalties, which are financial and very bad things as mandated by Congress. Okay. It also covers the way you judge competitions, right? So they have to be fair and equitable. And Amy and Jamie, right, they can't be too personable with you because they have to judge everybody equally, right? There's no favoritism. So that's why they're always they're fun and they're great people, but they're not personable with you as a team, right?
Why do they cry every time somebody goes home?
Because they do have a close attachment with the teams. We all do because we're all part of this intense production.
I got you.
But if there was favoritism, in the judging, that is a federal offense.
Sure.
And I can tell you the one thing that's more toxic to any production, it's paying money, spending more money than you have to, right? So not just the federal crime and penalty, but you know, to make sure that the judging is fair and equitable is a federal law in the United States. So I mean, everybody can say, oh, that worked in the favor of production, or they kept this team on because of this or because of that.
That was my next half question.
Yeah, the way I look at it is if you pick 12 teams that will have a great story that everybody will wind up cheering for you no matter what, who of the 12 wins?
Yeah.
In other words, when they go through casting, they're picking 12 teams that if they're the winner, they have a great narrative anyway, and they have a great dynamic that everybody can root for in the end.
That makes good sense.
Now, they can't please everyone, so you're going to always have that final three, and everybody's rooting for one of the three to win.
Sure.
But
then you have that stick in the mud that didn't make it on the show, and he's angry about it the whole time.
Well, no. What I'm trying to say is the deck is already stacked. The house always wins. In other words, no matter which of the 12 teams wins the competition, they already have amazing personalities that are going to work in the favor of the production for them to proceed forward. And you're going to feel bad as more and more people get cut because they're able to spend more time editing the team's dynamic into the narrative just by the fact that there's same amount of time in the show and less teams to focus on. So, I mean, that's just the way I think the production and by the way, they have some of the best editors. They have some of the best camera crews. They're getting great shots. They have amazing lighting. They have
I've enjoyed what I've seen.
So they have the top of the top reality show production people putting this thing together. They can tell any sort of narrative. You know, that's what they do is they've been doing this for decades, ever since Survivor first came out. They've really tuned in how these competition-based reality shows work and how to kind of pull the audience along in a certain way. So I feel it's unfair to the judges. It's really unfair to the production to say, oh, you know, they didn't want to cut this team because they liked them so much, or they did this or that. I think that it's good for a mental space as a contestant to feel like that happened because it's less psychic damage that you just lost, you failed. But I owned up to the fact that I lost. But of course, it was easier for me because it was catastrophic as obvious. But you know, so for people who think that the judges were wrong, well, that's the other thing I could talk about. Is this the second part of it is, you know, I read on forums where, oh, I think the judges were wrong. Okay, you can think the judges are wrong. That's cool. You have your own opinion.
Yeah.
But, you know, I just mentally went through the space of looking at it like, first of all, do you have the experience of Jamie and Amy? Are you in charge of senior and junior Lego designers at Lego, in charge of entire product lines? So it's their job, right, to build, to help other designers design great sets that go to market and get sold for Lego. So it's not like they don't know how Lego should be constructed to tell a narrative.
Right.
That's kind of like their job. So
right.
Number one, they're very good at it. I think you'd have a hard time finding more talented aesthetic and design mastery than Amy. I think you'd have a hard time looking at some more technical stuff than, Mr. Creator Expert and adult black box extraordinaire, Mr. Jamie Berard. Mm-hmm. These guys are legendary. The other thing you don't get is if you're there in person and you stay and you spend the time, right, the actual time to look at all the models in detail and really see them presented and take the amount of time that they do shooting it, because judging is a much longer thing than the edit that you see. It goes by pretty quickly, even though it may be half the show.
Yeah.
They spend a lot more time looking at the construction and all the details and whatever criteria they need to do to judge that build. And they don't edit in every aspect of the model that may not be as glamorous. So they're always going to edit your model to look great or as good as it can look. So even some of our models had real problems, but they were able to, do the pan with the light and lens flare out the bad parts, and so you don't see it all. And then the third thing I would say is a lot of people say, oh, that judging was unfair because this was such a great team, but they mean personality. So
I got you there.
The other thing that people tend to mix together is the artist from the artistry. So I would say you have to separate the artist and your love of a team from the artistry and what they've produced. And the two are not the same.
It was hard with you for me. I didn't. You could have put a brown brick and called it crap, and I would have been like, "That's beautiful. Look what
no. Yeah, I thought I had a good personality, but there's a lot of folks who had amazing personalities on the show.
I think you have an amazing ability too, but that didn't make a difference. You're
my
friend.
It was judged appropriately. I think for in the stuff that I've seen, even though you love them so much, you got to stop back and say, really. Yeah, those were the bottom two based on the criteria, and looking at it X, Y, and Z. There was a reason they didn't meet the brief, or they didn't quite fit, or they didn't speak judge. That's the other thing, is you really have to interpret the judge's language very precisely to understand what they're trying to tell you.
All right, so I got another hot button question I just came up with right on the fly, dude. Why do they even let you have minifigs? It's like a trap.
No, so, well, it can be a trap if you don't in the beginning there's a couple things you need to think through when the challenge comes.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the bigger things is this a minifig scale challenge, or is this like a larger scale?
Yeah.
Character design challenge, or is it like a brick belt medium-sized figure challenge? And we could go into like tactics around building and approaching certain things, but there are certain challenges that are designed for minifig scale. And there's certain challenges that right off the bat, you have to kind of say, you know what, this is really leaning into character design. We should build like an amazing centerpiece character and pull that focus in. Like if you have an amazing moment challenge. So anytime you have something that's like, we want to see that one amazing moment from this type of setting.
Yeah.
You probably want to go large scale character design just to have a stunning action sequence, that freeze frame that has it. Whereas some challenges, you don't have a choice. Like when we did Hero Shot, you picked a minifig, and that was what you built around. It was there for a purpose. So, I would say
I get that. Yeah, that was. Did you? All right. I don't know when this is going to air, so if you didn't watch Lego Masters Season 3, Episode 4, just turn it off now. Okay. I'll wait for them to leave. I'm serious.
Well, that's a good example where it could have gone either way, but ultimately, I think minifig scale was the right way to go.
But what about the boys that built the new boys built the big ones?
They did. They did.
Also, I do. God, I'm sorry, Moto. I got to interrupt you. Moto's like, "What are you doing?" Uh, the judges told one group or one set of people minifigs are bad, and then another group did minifigs, and they're like, "Oh, you're in the top."
Yeah, so it's the context of it, right? So
All right, I'm listening.
this is a great example of taking it and splitting it. It could have gone either way. So what you need to do if you have something like this is the treehouse challenge, by the way.
Right.
So you have these young shaped bonsai trees, right? They're young, but they're getting trained. Is you can either say, okay, this is a treehouse. What I can do is take I call it the Tyler Kleitz model.
Oh, here we go.
I can
Never heard of him. Who's that? No.
Yeah, so I can take what Tyler's really good at, or Dave Collette is another one, Dave and Richard, is I can make brick built figures about this big, and I can put them in tiered story settings, right? So I can build modularly a certain number of self-encapsulated stories with brick built characters and put them in cartoon-like settings that tell a quick narrative from a distance, okay? So that's the biggest thing is you need to see something from a distance on the tree. You need to read the tree, scan the tree as a whole, and go, if you need to make a narrative, you need a figure, and that figure's got to be big. If that figure is going to tell the story that it's in.
Right.
So I would say the new Young Guns hip team, that's what they went for, right? They built brick-built characters about that big, and they put them in narratives, and they set them as separate modular narratives within the tree structure, okay? So that's one way to go after it. Yeah. The other way to go is if you're going to do, I need a tree house and it has to be minifig scale, just recognize you are populating the tree house with minifigures for detail, but you need to have a tree house that immediately commands attention from a long distance from across the room.
Gotcha.
And it needs to read as something like mind-blowingly instantly recognizable. So like a pirate ship,
they did that.
Yeah, I mean, if you made like a red-hulled pirate ship, or yellow or not brown, something that would stand off the tree. So I think like trees are brown and green, so I'd immediately go with like yellow and red, something really hot.
Anything but brown and tan.
Yeah, brown, tan, green. Those are all blues. Muddled yellows, and those are cool colors. So I'd go with a hot color complement, maybe even a magenta if you had enough brick. But you need to make it really massive. You need in other words, you need your object to be that one central focus point of attention that you look and you're like, oh my God, that's a pirate ship. Or in the case of the other team, it's a big monster Lego brick that opens up as a house, right? But it's a monster Lego brick. That thing reads. It's kind of like a convention. You see certain models at convention.
I don't know what
even though they're across the hall.
No idea what you're saying.
No. What I'm saying, you immediately recognize what it is, right?
Yeah.
By the way, to Nick and Stacy, what I thought was really brilliant is in the Lego house, which is a house shaped like a Lego brick, they have a tree, right, which represents the history of Lego. They have a tree growing up in the middle of the house.
They sure do.
So what was funny is they flipped that and reversed it. They put a brick-built house inside a tree.
There it is.
Right, which is an ultimate. So if you're in Billund, you'd recognize the metaphor of them flipping that on their head.
Sure enough.
Talk about a major deep cut nerd reference.
It didn't hit me till you said it, but now the second you started bringing it up, I was like, that's what they did.
Well, and it wouldn't make the edit because it doesn't make sense to American audience. But if the judges were coming up to you and you gave them that like meta brief as part of your brief, you said, "Oh, we're going to make a big Lego brick as a treehouse," and they're like, "Oh, that's cool." And then you say, "Yeah, because in Billund, there's a house shaped like Lego, and it's got the tree built with the narrative. We're going to flip it and make the tree be the base with the brick being the house." And then,
right, yeah.
Right, people's like meta artistic license, like modern art minds would just explode.
Absolutely. Even
though it wasn't brought up, I had a slight feeling that was one reason I was drawn to that. I was like, oh my God, they're totally flipping the narrative.
Now, here's my thing is I just want to build it. I saw it. What I enjoy watching or looking at a Lego mock that someone has built I like looking at it and go, I can build that, and it's cool. If I look at it, I'm like, I couldn't do that. That's that. And granted, we can all figure it out.
Well, I mean, if you watch Australia, there's a couple teams where I cannot build as well as they do. They're like like Jafa, that guy's a beast. And then the season 2 winners, I forget their names. Jack, I'm gonna get it wrong. Anyway, like Brickman explains it very well, or he explains it differently. He wants to see something that grabs his attention. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. The model has to look at a distance and grab your attention.
Gotcha.
And then it has to keep your attention. So the way you keep attention is by populating with detail and narrative, so that as you look through the model, you're constantly uncovering little discoveries and little things that really tie together and keep you in the model. So, yeah, I mean, minifig. So to go back, I mean, minifig or large character build, and I mean character like an object can be a character, right? As long as it's a single large thing that reads, that's something that can go well for you if you can figure out how to go after it, right?
Yeah. All right.
In general, though, I would say large character design that's an animal or a person that has personality, in general, is going to defeat any sort of like town plan, anything that's an object, right? Because if you connect, you connect with something more emotionally, if you can read the emotions in its face and in its body, right? It carries more emotional weight to us as humans.
Yeah. So
those I tend to always float to the top if you have to kind of split or figure out where you're going.
So we could talk about this episode all night long. I'm moving on from that. This is about your experiences.
Sure.
Anyway, good question here. How did you handle your time away from your family? How was that on your mental state?
It wasn't that bad. Better than most, I would say.
Okay, good.
I was probably one of the most resilient folks that was there.
Okay.
Because I was so dead tired. Most of the time it was too late to call home any given night. So it was like I just told my son and my wife, "Hey, I'm going to call you on Sunday, and that's it. You're not going to hear from me." It was very much like and the reason was I kind of prepped it that way. So I wound up, I think, being better for it.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like, I've been called up to the ranks, and I'm kind of I'm being drafted.
Right.
And so I'm going to be away. You're not going to hear from me. Maybe I'll be able to text you once a day, but there's not really going to be a phone call because I'm going to be dead tired and I'm going to want to sleep. And that's pretty much it. You have to kind of cut yourself off and realize that it is a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
People are trying to kill you. So I don't want to say it's like military, like war.
Right.
I want to say kind of you have to go through that mental preparation as if it was an incredibly intense. It's like an endurance athlete training.
Yeah.
So an endurance athlete that does like these 7-day ultra marathons.
Mm-hmm.
You have to focus on the task at hand. You have to isolate your mind, and you have to be emotionally prepared. So that's one tier of it. You have to be emotionally prepared to just cut yourself off from anything and focus exclusively on the task at hand. The other thing you have to do is, apart from emotional, is you have to have the mental fortitude to survive the psychological damage of doing nothing but Lego in a focused capacity for your entire awakened conscious state.
I gotcha.
For 6 days a week.
So
and then you have to physically be well enough to endure that as well. So it's physical, it's mental, and then it's emotional. Those three things are what break people down on the show over time.
So I was going somewhere. See, yeah.
Just pretend you're going to the moon. Pretend you're doing a 6-week moon mission and you can't call home.
No, the question I have is, during the build, can't you just sit there and rest? I mean, listen, I know you got 12.
You technically can. You technically could. I mean, you can run the clock down however you want.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's like, on one of the episodes, and I'm not naming names, and I don't want to get into it, but they said these gals put it together in 4 hours when they had 10.
Well, then they're going to get killed. They're going to get killed by the
they
competition.
got killed. They did. They got killed. But the point I'm making, though, is...
Well, no, their final build was 4 hours long. What they did is they ran for 4 hours and some odd hours in, and then deconstructed everything they built and started over.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, sure, you could... I guess if you had the golden brick, you could sit on your butt and not do anything, but...
Well, who wants to do that?
Well, yeah, but I also mean, if you're not building for every second on that clock... Then
you're not doing a good job.
Your competition is. So
gotcha.
The margins of talent are so razor thin.
Yeah.
That if you take a break, you're gonna get wiped out by someone else. You got to you got to fight for every little brick getting put down in the right place on that model till the clock is over. Yeah, I mean, getting done early, there's no such thing. You can always do something more, fight for more, put more detail down, or move things around, or populate it better. It's ludicrous to me that, because I always felt like we didn't have enough time. I mean, there's never enough time. So, yeah, if you're not...
Aren't you a perfectionist anyway, though?
Not for the show. No. No, I mean, that's the big difference is, yeah, I'm a very good mock builder, but this is not mock building. So I think a lot of difficulty for some teams is that you can't use your mock building mindset in competitive speed building for the show. Okay.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
The first thing you need to lose is perfection. You need to also lose any technique that takes a significant amount of time to solve.
I gotcha.
Right. So I'm not going to be doing, I won't be doing like that topiary stuff over here.
Sure.
That takes forever to snap together. The wolf's head, the polytexture stuff, it takes forever to shape.
Sure.
You got to get down to the basics of what is very fast, which is what you see when you think of like master builders, or you see this stuff in museums. It's all basic brick sculpting for the most part. Yeah. And then being able to do a lot of very fast character design. So, yeah, I mean, if someone said, hey, Julian, I need you to build 6 cars for this city in 30 minutes, 5 minutes per car.
Yeah.
Well, not maybe 10 minutes per car, but you're going to go very fast, grab a bunch of wheels. You're going to put the road base on very quick. You're going to smash the wheels down, put the wheel covers on, put a bunch of plates, throw a windshield on it, cap it off, and set it down and move on.
Yep. That's absolutely.
So it has to be close enough to be quick. And then, we could talk about other speed building strategies, but I think the biggest thing is stop for a while. And if you're serious about being on the show, mm-hmm. You should have a good portfolio going in, but if you're progressing along, you need to stop and think about with your teammate, spending a lot of time not just building together, but really thinking through what are the successful strategies behind a competitive speed build that's not like a mock. Yeah. They are mocks, they're custom, but things like, like the Ferris wheel from season 1.
Yep.
If I solve something and then replicate it and duplicate it, that's an advantage. If I spend most of your time spent solving the problem, if you solve a problem, make sure you can replicate it very quickly.
Right.
Create a factory and machine stuff out very quickly. Another one is modularity. Like, don't build models that are hard fastened into a base plate if you're trying to do a layout that tells a story. Build showpieces. And if you're doing 5, that's great. But if you wind up only doing 3, don't bind them to the base plate. Try to set them at the last hour so that it doesn't look like there's a huge empty space, that you've got everything populated in the right amount.
Yeah. That was something I noticed this season that's hit me so far more than is that sneezing? Bless you?
No, it's coughing.
Oh, okay. That's
because I've been talking so long.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like some water?
It's okay. No, keep going.
That's something that's impressed me this season that I paid closer attention to than I have in the past seasons is the building. that they have done and how quickly they've put it together. And I'm like, because like I love modulars. I think they're great. I don't have any to speak of, but I like the way they look. And these folks were putting together decently looking modulars, and they were doing it quickly and with good detail. And I went back and I watched some of it, and it's almost just a facade, but it's enough to make it. It's enough to render your story in brick.
Well, that's the deal is, yeah, you got to memorize a modular building because you need to know how many bricks high.
Yeah.
And by the way, you blast out a couple bricks high, you get the window frame treatment done, you get the doorway treatment from the entrance done, and then every window on that level should be repeat.
Sure.
It's just like whatever teammate it is, like I solved this. Can you replicate this while I go solve the next level?
Sure.
In other words, if you have someone who's very technically proficient at building modulars, let them take the lead on designing the window, door treatment, whatever, while you're doing maybe a tree over here. Yeah. And then once they've done, you're the machine. You just machine stuff out while they work on the next thing. Another thing to consider is the color theory, like how you use color for the context and make things stand out visually against each other.
Yeah.
That's something that should be studied, and you really need to think through very, very well. Especially in this competition, we're starting to see the color theory fall apart. Whereas other teams that have great color theory, they're really getting their models to pop because they have a great understanding of what colors to use.
I really hated to see more. I'm not going into detail, but I hated to see the brown and the tan from them two fellers. But anyway, go watch the show.
Well, it's true. It's true for any season, and that's true of any production like Australia, US. You can see where color has failed teams at times.
Yeah.
And where color has really worked well. The last thing I would say is scale. So yeah, if you're a mock builder and you love to build detailed stuff, this is not competitive speed building is not that. They're expecting large scale stuff that looks great on television at a large capacity.
Yeah.
So a lot of the contest will say, oh, you have to build 4.5 feet tall, or you need to build this 100 studs wide. A lot of the building challenges come with physical parameters that are at 4.5 plus feet or 100 studs in length. That's very common to have those large scale parameters put on you. And you just need to be fast to build and build big. Build big and build fast.
That's it. I've been noticing that, and I've been watching this season with a different set of eyes. I tried to get on the first season, and I personally felt like I wasn't. Anyway, season one was not for me. I'll just put it that way. And they weren't, and they didn't want. Anyway, moving on. But in second and third season, I didn't bother trying for my own personal. But now I'm looking at it, and I've seen 3 seasons, and I've seen, because clearly.
Well, I mean, there are things that work, right, and things that don't work. But don't just look at stuff and say, oh, that's really cool, they won.
Yeah.
Stop and break it down. Think strategically about what they did that made them so successful, and you'll start to recognize certain patterns. But take notes, because it's always the same sort of things that get you knocked out. One is in the very beginning, the early episodes, it's like not building big enough or not having enough time management kicks your ass. So you need to be really aware of the clock and the time. You have to have great project management detail. You have to know quickly within the first 30 minutes to an hour when to bail on something because it's not going fast enough. Because, if you're halfway and it's too late, you're done. Yeah. Another thing is don't listen to the judges. Ignore the judges at your own peril, unless you really know what you're doing. And you can surprise and delight them. Take risks.
I feel like every single time I've watched the show, and it may just be editing, but it's like you don't listen to the judge, you're going home.
I mean, rarely.
Yeah.
I would say there are rare circumstances where someone who's a really, really amazing, talented person who's done something before can actually achieve what they're warning them against.
I got
But it's only if they've done it like lots of times and they know they're dead certain they can pull it off.
I got you.
Do take risks, but man, there's a couple words you have to be dead seriously afraid of. So if you're taking a risk and you hear the word ambitious, run for the hills. Pare it back immediately. Like ambitious should be a warning trigger of you're trying too much.
I got you.
But yeah, listen also to the judges. Listen carefully to what they say. Maybe even turn on subtitles. But there's certain keywords that indicate what they really think you should be doing. Like, oh, it's just a little bit of feedback versus this is really bad. We need to stop and change like immediately. Like if you hear ambition, you're biting off too much.
So I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How much, if any, and only answer it if you can, how much, if any, do Jamie and Amy have to do with the picking process at the beginning? Or is that just something?
What do you mean by the beginning?
Like the beginning, like, okay, we've invited you to Atlanta. We would like to.
Oh, so casting.
The
Casting?
beginning.
Casting, you mean, right?
Of course, that's what my wife says.
No.
No?
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, I never saw them at any point in time during casting.
So they weren't behind the mirrored glass?
I mean, they could be, but how would I know, right?
No,
I didn't.
with you. I'm just
No, I mean, there's certain things toward the very end where I would say Lego gets lightly involved, but no, I mean, there's not. I mean, their time is precious. They're working, man. They're not.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they're there. They're also there to judge. So why would they be part of the selection process? I mean, it goes once again to that thing of no bias and fairness.
Yeah, that's true.
If they had a hand in the selection process of the teams, then how could they rightfully be neutral judges?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
So, as a fan, what do you think about the twist this season? Do you wish it had been in y'all's season or any other season, or do you think they need to scrap it? Or do you have no opinion on it?
Well, I have two opinions. One is I really like these guys because I know them, right? I'm on TikTok, so I know them. So they're incredibly talented. I like that more teams were able to get into the season. So I like having more teams. The fact that the spaces can only accommodate 12 tables, kind of you got to start to mess around with mechanics.
Yeah.
I don't like the mechanism. I absolutely hate it. So I it's like falsely manufactured drama
Gotcha.
to me. What I liked more was in Australia, they brought in a team, but they had to compete with the former week's losing teams.
Oh.
So what happened is they couldn't make the math work in Australia. Instead of introducing a 13th team, what happened is the team to get knocked out had a micro challenge against the episode before's team that got knocked out, and they fought to come back in.
That worked.
But what I'd like to see is something like that where, the newer team comes in and all of a sudden the two former teams that got ejected, or let's say all the teams who have been eliminated to that point, all three teams go against the new team and the four of them blasted out. And in other words, that way, if the new team succeeded in defeating anybody else, or it was really judged that way, you wouldn't have this criticism of, oh, these guys don't know what they're doing. They would have buried the former three teams and moved on, and everybody would be like, well, they beat the other three teams. I guess I have no complaints, right, for skipping the line if you can go head-to-head with all the remainders. Or the others had a chance to come back in.
Absolutely.
That would have been that would have been a more cool twist, I think, on the whole thing.
I think I'd agree with that. Maybe they'll clean it up in the next few seasons.
They don't have the time. They don't have the production time. It's US, so I doubt it. But so no, I didn't like the mechanism. I love the fact that they have more teams.
I like it. I'm okay with that too. And like you said, the two fellas that are in there, and I got to meet.
But
them.
It was dramatically staged to make the entire cast in the United States hate, or Canada too, North America hate these guys.
Right.
So I mean that sucked. That wasn't a nice way to. I mean, it didn't feel right to me. It just didn't sit right.
I get that.
But you know what? I'm not in charge of production, so I don't care. They can do that to me at any point in time if they invite me back. They can go ahead and throw someone else in, and I would not care. I would just be happy for being there.
Would you go back? Do you want to go back if they had it all stars? Would you do it?
Well, the answer is depends. I wouldn't bring the same team back because a team that only makes it like a third of the way through the season probably isn't going to succeed against top tier teams. It just didn't work.
Gotcha.
But I would go back in a heartbeat. Maybe if there's like a remix opportunity or there's some sort of mechanism where it's just one builder or they get remixed with someone else or something.
Would you, if I do make it on season 4, which I have all like confidence that I will, would you be my partner on, say, a later on show?
Well, if they did a remix, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, so you and some other folks, like there's a lot of other builders from my season or season 1. I don't know season 3 well enough, but there's like some folks from season 1 that have, became my friends before I went on season 2.
Yeah.
And then on season 2, there's a lot of amazing folks I would love. I think we would have a good building chemistry, and personality chemistry. That I would, if they called, I'd be like, yeah, if they said, oh, my partner such and such can't make it, but I got invited to do this thing.
Yeah.
I was talking, and maybe would you mind seeing if casting would sub my partner in? I'd be like, let's do it. Now, after season 2, well, I know, so I would do it for you. But like, yeah, I mean, there's some season 3 teams I think I would get along, but I have to know them a lot better because I'm not close friends with a lot of season 3.
Well, I mean,
but with you, I'm a close friend, so I'd be like, yeah, I'd take a run at it.
Well,
if you got more than a third of the way through. So as long as you get further than I did, then I would join your team because you'd be the stronger builder and it makes sense. But you're going to win. Remember, you're going to win the show.
I'm not talking about me, but as far as being a stronger builder, I don't feel like when you're kicked out of the competition has anything to do with your ability to build. It has your.
Oh no! That's why I said it was the team, right? It was our team was not like. I just felt our team never got to the point where it's firing on all cylinders.
I could see that.
So that had nothing to do with having 2 great builders. That was that we weren't a great team for whatever challenges we were doing.
That makes sense.
So like I said, if that didn't work, then why repeat that? Like I think a remix would be better. Like try something different.
That would be fun too. Who would? All right, so. Just for funsies, who would your celebrity pick be? Like if it was you and a celebrity doing a show together. I know, right? I just threw you off. I know. I don't care because I've heard.
Okay, I know.
Okay.
I would prefer Keanu Reeves because I would want to spend any fractional amount of time with that man, regardless of whether he could build Lego. I would just sit. I would do all the building and just talk like philosophy of life things or like discipline, like his approach to his physical and mental discipline, or I would mind the depths of Keanu-ness at any point in time.
All right, folks. So you hear this. If you guys know Keanu Reeves, go ahead.
He would freaking do it. Dude, they can't even get Brad Pitt on to do a short stop by. There's no way they're gonna get that.
Listen, man.
He's way too busy. He's got more important things to do in his life, man.
Oh man, you gotta understand, man. You just gotta speak it into existence. It'll happen. That's all. We're gonna get Moto and Keanu together, and you won't be able to tell them apart.
No, I mean there's other celebrities like that where they're so like as far as I know, from what I know about them. Like they're such amazing individuals. I love just to sit and talk about like their philosophy of acting or character or hell, I wish I had more time with Will Arnett than just the stop bys because you never really there wasn't the time. There's never the time, right, to really get to sit down. Cause it's the whole judging thing, right? You have to have that distance where you can't get to know them or have those deeply meaningful conversations like you would. And you don't have that with the teammates either. You have some good times together, but there's never enough time to really be able to sit and get to know someone really deeply until you sit like Cruikshank, man, at a convention. I got to know Cruikshank really well. Boone, I got to know incredibly well because I had the fortunate ability to spend a lot of time with them when I had the chance to. But it's kind of like that.
You ain't gonna see Boone no more.
Oh yeah. But no, Boone was one of those guys where I realized he had like this great life philosophy, and I just wanted to learn more about him and what way he thought. And we had this like deep conversation,
That's nice.
which is cool. I mean, I'd want some sort of celebrity that was like that, or fun, just funny to hang out with and joke back and forth. I mean, I think Terry Crews would be another one. That would be hilarious. If we bring him back, he'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Jack Black, that'd be my partner.
Oh my God, I don't see the problem there is he's an overwhelmingly creative, destructive force where I don't think anything would get done.
So what?
Yeah, exactly. But I would want to build something just because there's some sort of
my partner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My partner would be Jack Black.
Yeah, he'd be like, and you're like, you'd be like the first team to go home because it would just be like, it would be amazing. It would be amazing. It would be the star that burned too bright. That would be a wild ride, man. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad Moto. And by the way, just real quick, folks, I knew it was Keanu Reeves before he said it because I know Moto.
Well, he knows that he's like one of my favorite actors of all time.
So Keanu
I was going to say Betty White would have been a great one, but she passed away.
Oh yeah. Well, could she still? No. All right.
The ghost of Betty White? That's not. No, I wouldn't want a Betty White hologram. No.
But yeah, they Moto. I've really enjoyed this. I know we just scratched the surface, and maybe you come back. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
We're just winging it right now, folks. We don't. Moto was just nice enough to do this for me.
Can I answer a question? Can I answer a question you didn't ask?
I would love it if you did.
So no one has ever asked this to me. And one good question is, what is something that you've always wanted to share about the production, but no one has ever asked you about?
Oh, I see. I should have. That's going to be my next time I have somebody on. It's going to be the question.
That should be one of the final questions. So
right on.
I've always wanted to talk about the fact that maybe every other month, I will have this incredibly realistic, deep dream that I am back on Lego Masters.
Oh, wow.
And I will dream up the challenge. I have different people with me, which is really weird, like different builders and people who haven't even been on the show, just different builders for some reason. And literally do about a half a day's worth of production. But it goes by really fast because dream time. So like it kind of works like the show where it cuts and jumps between the stages of building. But like I have the wildest like dreams, and they're like quasi Lego.
That's cool. Love it.
But yeah, that happens about every other month. But one crazy thing, which I have talked about before, is after about 2 or 3 days, every time I fell asleep, I would dream I was doing the challenge that we were doing, or a variation or a weird, trippy version of it. It's like people say that when you move to a foreign country, you start to dream in the foreign language after a while. So imagine that all you are doing is concentrated, focused mock building in that studio.
Yeah.
All you dream about is weird, trippy versions, like heat fever dream versions of that studio and kind of what's going on in there. And it's really mind-bending. So one thing that a lot of people might not consider, but if this starts to happen to you, imagine that you're not just doing the production while you're awake.
Yeah.
You're doing the production while you're asleep.
Wow.
So it is inescapable. You're not just grinding your mental state while you're awake. It's also hitting you while you sleep. And then it begins the next morning, you wake up, and then you've got to do it all over again, all over again, all over again. So that's a little thing that most people don't think about if they're ever going to try out for this thing. Yeah. And yeah, it's a grueling experience, but it's so worthwhile because you know what? It's 6 or 7 or 8 weeks of pain. Yeah. So I looked at it like intense Marine or some sort of training program where where they flush out like 2/3 of the candidates or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like that where, yeah, this is going to be the worst, one of the toughest things, mentally tough things I've ever done. Yeah. But you know what? You just have to go. It's only 8 weeks. It's not like having an infant where it's like,
Oh yeah,
The first entire year is total hell.
yeah.
You just have to have that mindset of like, I've got, it's like, you know what I mean though? Like if you've ever raised an infant, right? A newborn, but the point is you can't just say, oh, it's only 18 years. It's like 6 weeks is nothing or 8 weeks is nothing compared to that.
And if you can hack parenthood, you can hack Lego. That's what he's saying.
Well, no. I mean, it has to be an intense sort of like, you have to be driven to think of it in that mindset of.
I get that.
Also, it's really safe to go in assuming you're going to lose. Just assume, hey, I'm going to lose, and as long as I can hang on is another great day for me. It's really healthy, right? So you're never really invested on winning, so you don't get disappointed if you get thrown off. It is disappointing, but it's not soul crushing.
Right.
Hi, puppy. Yeah, who, me?
This is the new one. Sorry. He decides to climb up. But yeah, Moto, thank you so much.
No problem.
And this won't air until after I have at least one more in the can from somebody else, so I can call it a thing. But if that never happens, then I'll air this just for funsies. But
you should try Corey Sams.
Okay.
I
know him. I know him, and I should reach
or
out.
Mel. Why don't you talk to Mel because he's a friendly. Berg. Get Berg.
Oh, I know who Mel is. Yeah.
That should be your last question. Who's the next Lego master I should invite on the show?
There you go. Well, I already know what the answer is, and I'm going to try Dawn.
Dawn, yeah. Dawn is a fellow tricky lugger.
Yeah.
Counterpart.
Yeah.
You know what? That's what I'll do.
What are you going to do?
Julian?
Yes.
I think the next person you get on the show is a friendly, tricky lugger, and my clicky pin from Season 2 production is here to invite the other clicky wearer onto the show, which would be Dawn. Dawn and Jack. Dawn or Jack, but likely Dawn.
There you go.
Clicky, Dawn. Clicky is asking for you to come on.
Is Dawn going to watch this?
Dawn, I'm going to make you watch this, and at the end, Clicky is going to stare deeply in your soul and invite you to be on the show.
Folks, and that's what I love about Lego. You got a guy who is highly intellectual, very, very creative, but at the end of the day, he still has fun with the brick.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's important. So,
if it's not fun, stop, take a break.
Every time.
It's not worth it. Yes, yeah,
every time.
Unless you're on Lego Masters and the clock is running down, which case
then you don't stop. But once you
100% not fun, it's work. But after that, it's all good. You get to walk around and see amazing stuff.
There you go. So I guess from all of us here at the Pink Bucket Nation and Moto's house, Moto's over there, to all of you at home, thanks for watching. And remember, you got to love those bricks. Bye, everybody.
I love those bricks.